All right. The next delegation is Brad Liston.
Brad Liston.
Let me see. I'm gonna have to dig.
I don't have Mr. Liston.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Brad Liston, and I am a parent of 3 students in Kanawha County schools. And I'm here, well, what I'd like to do is just read you part of my daughter's homework, a couple sections of it. So I was the last one through the house, and I was always the last one through the house, and therefore I was expected to pay the loser's price, which was to kiss Hester. In order to bring this forced intercourse about, it had been necessary for Noah and Simon to tie her to the bed, prone to the bed, where she threatened to bite the lips off anyone that kissed her. They never marshaled as much enthusiasm for the many repeats of the game called Last One Through the House Has to Kiss Hester. Maybe they realized later that I began to intentionally lose the game. And what did they make of the time they untied us and Hester said to me, "Hey, I felt your heart-on." "You did not," I said. "I did. It wasn't much of a heart-on. It was no big deal, but I felt it."
Mr. Liston, really, I understand you want to make some point. There's some inappropriate things in the book, but I don't think we need to.
Wait a minute. You say this is your daughter's homework?
This was my daughter's assigned reading homework.
Well, wait a minute now, people. If it's his assigned reading homework, if they can read it, I can hear it.
Well,
I apologize because I don't...
What grade is your daughter?
My daughter's a junior in high school.
Okay.
And I apologize because some of this is offensive.
Right.
I don't
Was this assigned
well, I think
to
if
her?
we're going to be
What, Mr. Luoni, wait a minute.
No, I'm not.
If a student in the 11th grade has to read it, at my age, I can hear it.
Well, let me just point out that this meeting is going to be televised, and so
Well,
therefore there will be
Prime time when we tell them.
I think we need to remember who the
But
audience
the children
is.
reading it.
I understand.
Well, I understand that you feel that it's inappropriate, and I don't think anybody was going to disagree with that.
But sir, they have disagreed. I went before the board for a committee, and everyone agreed except for me that it was appropriate material for the children to read.
They agreed it was appropriate material.
Yes.
What
Well,
committee?
What committee?
The board formed a committee to review the book.
We didn't form a committee.
Well, Mrs.
Well,
Jarvis,
excuse me,
if
I'm
I
sorry,
might
the
have a
school
minute to
administration.
explain
All right.
that this board has a policy that when there's questionable material or parent questions, the parent may submit a request,
Yes.
as Mr. Liston did. And then our supervisor of secondary English and language arts, according to policy, convenes a committee.
And who is is that Margaret Miller?
No, it's Judy Gillen.
Judy Gillen, okay. Judy Gillen gets a committee. Who's on the committee?
Well, if I could just finish, she goes from different areas and different regions of parents, teachers. I don't have an exact list of the committee with us, or with me this evening. Then each of those people in the committee are given the book to read and analyze the book and make their comments, and then come back, and this group met, and they even had a night where they came back and discussed the book. And Mr. Liston was very honest. Unanimously, the group in there decided that it should stay at the higher honors classes, that the book is not assigned. Children have the, in those grades, can choose a book to read.
No, sir. No,
She was assigned that
when
one?
my daughter was assigned this book, and I apologize for interrupting, but
No, that's
if I
okay.
could, I apologize for reading this out loud. I don't use this type of language. I don't condone it. But this is what my kids were assigned to read. And that's the reason I want to share it with a lot of folks, but I know you don't have time to read the book, so I apologize.
Oh, I want, what is
Tell
it?
us the story.
However, let me
But-
just finish my
ahead.
statement. The fact that the committee met, including parents, and Dr. Williams can add too, because he worked with Mrs. Gillen very closely, agreed that the book should stay at the honors level classes for 11th and 12th graders. I think also, correct me, Dr. Williams, if I'm wrong, but that from this point on there would be a permission slip that would have to be signed by parents before a child would be allowed to read this book.
Well, you know something.
Also, I think your daughter was given an alternative assignment. Is that correct?
She was given an alternative, but this was the way it was put forth.
So what we did was follow the policy. I'm sorry.
Oh, go ahead, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry, go ahead.
She was told that she had to go find a book on her own that was similar content, similar length, similar subject matter, that the teacher knew something about and could test her on, and then gave her no examples, no books to pick from. So we went out to the bookstores. My daughter researched with a librarian, public librarian, gave her the title of the book, and we had to go on our own to find a book to read. So to say she wasn't required to read it was like saying you don't have to work. You don't have to work, but it's a whole lot easier if you do. So there was that alternative, but I didn't consider that much alternative, and that's a whole other subject matter, how that was handled in the classroom.
How was it handled?
She had a very difficult time with it.
What's the name of this book?
This is a book called it's by John Irving. It's entitled A Prayer for Owen Meany.
A Prayer for Owen
Yes.
Meany.
Okay.
Well, I think that we will look into what your complaint and
because it gets much more graphic.
Right, and I wanted to.
Well, maybe you could just buy a gift for all the children and get them highlighted.
Here's my point. I mean, and there are parts in this book that if there were illustrations, we all would be arrested for distributing pornographic material to the children.
It's not an illustrated book, I think.
No, it's not illustrated.
Oh, I hope
one of the
not.
most powerful aspects of literature. One of the most powerful aspects of literature is its ability to paint images in your mind as you read. How many times have you read a book and gone to the movie and you're disappointed in the movie because it didn't come up to your expectations? This is the type of material that's being planted in my children and your grandchildren's minds as they read.
Okay, no, I think you made an appropriate point.
What are we going to do, Mr.
Well, we can review his comments and his additional comments, and the board can agree that with the parent that we shouldn't have the book in the library.
Mr. Lewoni, you'll be violating your own policy, and the policy was
then
that
we need to change the policy.
We would set up a committee of parents to review objectionable material with a wide variety of people on that committee.
If I can add a comment about the committee, excuse me, that there was one person that said there was no redeeming quality in the book, but still thought the children should be able to read it.
Well, I'm
a little skeptic of
I think you brought up a point that we need to look at our policy, and we need to look if we need to define more clearly what's out of bounds for and what areas are out of bounds and for literature. And I think I'm not faulting anybody on the committee, but I think you have raised legitimate points that we need to review, and I think we will. As a board, when we have our next curriculum meeting, which is in May, we will look at what we should do, if anything, to better ensure that we don't, have a...
I've been pursuing this since January.
Since January.
Since January.
Okay.
And
I remember your letter.
And let me add that the letters I mailed to the board members and to Dr. During, I was very pleased with the response I got. I mailed them out on a Saturday. By 10 o'clock Monday morning, Dr. During had called me. The board members of the board had called me, and I appreciated that. But what really bothers me is what's maybe behind it, because my daughter wanted her own free will wanted to sing a song for show choir at a concert. Jesus Loves Me. She couldn't do it because it was offensive. It maybe offended someone in the audience, but yet she's required to read this type of material.
Well, something that amazes me, Mr. Priest just told about a book of intelligent design, of pandas and people. We can't put that in the hand of teachers, but we can require this of children. I'm a little confused.
Can you come back on May the 8th?
May the 11th, Mr. Thal.
But
it was changed to May the 11th.
May the 11th?
Yes.
May the 11th.
We'll put an agenda item on our curriculum meeting to review.
Can you come back on May the 11th?
Sir, I would appreciate the opportunity to come back, because
I'd like to have you at some extent, some length.
And this will be on the agenda.
And we'll discuss it on May the 11th.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate that. And again, I apologize but that was the content of the book.
So
all right.
No apology needed.
I can't wait to check that out.
We put it out.
All right. All right, thank you. All right, the next speaker is Bray Liston.